September 6, 1901. The Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. President William McKinley extends his hand to greet the public and walks straight into an assassin's trap. Leon Czolgosz had been waiting in line for hours. The 28-year-old mill worker from Detroit had traveled to Buffalo with one purpose: to kill the President of the United States. Born to Polish immigrants, Czolgosz had worked in factories since he was a teenager, watching wealthy industrialists grow richer, while workers like him struggled to survive. He'd become obsessed with anarchist ideas after reading radical newspapers and attending socialist meetings. The recent assassination of Italy's King Umberto I by anarchist Gaetano Bresci had inspired him. If one man could strike down a king, why not a president? Czolgosz had been stalking McKinley for days. He'd attended the president's speech at the exposition, getting close enough to see the man he'd decided must die. But security had been too tight. Today would be different. The president was holding a public reception at the Temple of Music, shaking hands with ordinary citizens. With a handkerchief wrapped around his right hand to conceal a .32 caliber Iver Johnson revolver, Czolgosz joined the receiving line. He practiced his approach, keeping the gun hidden, waiting for his moment. As the line moved forward, his heart pounded, but his resolve never wavered. At 4:07 p.m., Czolgosz reached the front of the line. McKinley smiled warmly and extended his hand in greeting. This was the moment. Czolgosz pushed the president's hand aside and fired 2 shots at point-blank range. The first bullet struck McKinley in the chest, deflecting off a button. The second tore into his abdomen. "Am I shot?" McKinley asked, staggering backward as blood spread across his white vest. The crowd erupted in chaos. Secret Service agents and exposition guards immediately tackled Czolgosz, beating him savagely before he could fire again. As he was dragged away, bleeding from the beating, Czolgosz showed no remorse. "I done my duty," he declared. When asked why he'd shot the president, he replied coldly, "I killed President McKinley because he was the enemy of the good people, the working people." McKinley was rushed to the exposition's emergency hospital, then to the home of exposition president John Milburn. For 8 agonizing days, the nation held its breath. Initial reports were optimistic. Doctors believed the president would recover. They found the first bullet easily but couldn't locate the second, which had lodged deep in his abdomen. McKinley seemed to be improving. He was alert, joking with his wife Ida, even discussing political matters. But infection was silently spreading through his body. On September 13th, gangrene set in around the bullet wound. His condition deteriorated rapidly. At 2:15 a.m. on September 14th, 1901, President William McKinley died. His last words were reportedly, "It is God's way. His will be done." Theodore Roosevelt, who had been hiking in the Adirondack Mountains when summoned, rushed to Buffalo and was sworn in as the 26th president. Meanwhile, Czolgosz sat in his cell at the Erie County Jail, showing no emotion as news of McKinley's death reached him. He'd succeeded in his mission but now faced the electric chair. The public wanted blood, and they wanted it fast. They called witnesses who had seen the shooting, doctors who had treated McKinley, and law enforcement officers who had arrested Czolgosz. The defense tried to argue insanity, but without their client's cooperation, they had little to work with. Judge White sentenced Czolgosz to death by electric chair to be carried out during the week of October 28, 1901. Exactly 53 days after the assassination, Leon Czolgosz was led to the electric chair at Auburn Prison. The execution chamber was packed with witnesses, officials, doctors, reporters, and law enforcement officers who had worked the case. Czolgosz walked calmly to the chair, showing no emotion as prison guards strapped his arms and legs to the wooden frame. The metal electrodes were attached to his head and leg. When Warden Meade asked if he had any final words, Czolgosz looked up and spoke clearly. "I killed the president because he was the enemy of the good people, the working people. I am not sorry for my crime." At 7:12 a.m., executioner Edwin Davis threw the switch. 1,700 volts of electricity surged through Czolgosz's body for 45 seconds. His body convulsed violently against the restraints, then went still. A second, shorter jolt followed to ensure death. At 7:14 a.m., prison physician Dr. Guerin pronounced Leon Czolgosz dead. The man who had changed the course of American history with 2 gunshots was gone. But prison officials weren't finished. Fearing that Czolgosz's grave might become a shrine for other anarchists, they took extraordinary measures. His body was placed in a plain pine coffin, and sulfuric acid was poured over both the corpse and the casket to ensure rapid decomposition. He was buried in an unmarked grave within the prison walls. Even his personal belongings were destroyed. The clothes he wore, his few possessions, even the chair he died in, all were either burned or dissolved in acid. The authorities wanted to erase Leon Czolgosz from history, to deny him any chance of becoming a martyr for the anarchist cause. The assassination of William McKinley marked a turning point in American history. It brought Theodore Roosevelt to power, ushering in the progressive era. It also led to the creation of the modern Secret Service protection system that guards presidents to this day. As for Leon Czolgosz, he got exactly what he wanted. He struck down a president and died for his beliefs. But history would remember him not as a revolutionary hero, but as a disturbed young man whose act of violence changed a nation forever. If you found this story as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. We've got tons more incredible execution stories on the channel, from botched electric chair disasters to the last public hangings in America. Check out our playlist of forgotten executions that shaped history, and let us know in the comments which historical execution you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.